Greetings, fellow lords and ladies. We're going to look at Game of Thrones Season 4, now continues on with the third episode, Breaker of Chains. So beginning in King's Landing, with King Joffrey dead, Cersei mourns the death of her eldest son with the heir apparent and still holding Joffrey in her arms, demands that Sansa Stark be found. Her father seals the capital so no one can leave. Prince Thomas Baratheon pays his respects to his dead brother and great sept of Baelor. Tywin Lannister, also present, immediately begins instructing young prince on the qualities of a good king. As Tywin and Tommen leave, Jaime enters to see Cersei calling for the death of the accused Tyrion and his wife, Sansa Stark. Jaime sends the sept and his septas away so he can be alone with Cersei. He tries to comfort her through his affections. She refuses initially, but Jaime is aggressive. Cersei assists at the sept during a private viewing of their son's corpse. It's a highly inappropriate place for sex, and asks Jaime to stop, saying, "It isn't right, it isn't right." And Jaime refuses to stop, saying, I don't care. They then have sex next to their dead son's corpse. Ew. Anyway, a flashback to the wedding reveals Sansa escaping with Sir Dontos Hollard from King's Landing to a ship off the coast. As Sansa is taken aboard, she is greeted by Lord Peter Littlefinger Baelish. He remembers that he still owes Dontos his fee, but Baelish has 2 men killed with crossbows. He explains to Sansa that Sir Dontos was a drunken fool and an unreliable ally who only helped Sansa for money and would turn her in for money. To prove his point, he shows that the priceless necklace Dontos gave her was actually made a few weeks ago on Baelish's orders. Sansa is confused and horrified, but Baelish promises to keep her safe. Tywin interrupts Oberyn Martell in his group sex act with Illyri Sand and Olyvar to discuss Tyrion's upcoming trial for the murder of Joffrey. Tywin brings up Oberyn's knowledge of poisons and the link between that and Joffrey's death, as some say the king was poisoned, and wonders whether Oberyn had helped Tyrion. The topic changes to the murder of Oberyn's sister Elia by Tywin's pet, the Mountain, during the sack of King's Landing. Tywin denies ordering her death, but promises to arrange a meeting between Oberyn and the Mountain so he can have his justice. He also offers Oberyn a position on the small council if Oberyn agrees to be the third judge at Tyrion's trial. He explains his eager to bring Dorne back into the fold, wanting to unite the 7 kingdoms against more obvious threats, the Greyjoys in rebellion, outwelling armies advancing on the Wall, and the Zara Targaryen girl in the east with a powerful army of 3 dragons, who will eventually threaten Westeros. Tywin observes that only the Dornish successfully resisted Aegon Targaryen's dragons during his invasion of Westeros 3 centuries ago. Oberyn dryly notes it must be hard for Tywin to admit he needs the Dornish for help. Tyrion is in a cell in King's Landing. He is visited by his squire Podrick Payne, who has smuggled in some food and other items for him. Pod has managed to compile a list of Tyrion's witnesses. He names his wife, Sansa, but Pod informs him that she disappeared moments after Joffrey's death. He cannot speak to Bronn either because, as a close associate of Tyrion, he is also under investigation. Pod confirms that there has been no word of Shae, which Tyrion takes as good news. Tyrion then asks to speak with Jaime. He also warns Pod to be over surroundings and watch out for they being the spies of Tywin, Cersei, Varys, or more or less anyone else. He opines that many people had a motive for killing Joffrey. Cersei is the only person he rolls out. He urges Pod to get out of King's Landing as he would be in much danger due to his close relations with Tyrion, especially after refusing to testify against Tyrion, despite the offer of a knighthood. As Pod is about to leave, Tyrion calls him back and tells him that there has never lived a more loyal squire. Anyway, in the Riverlands. Meanwhile, Arya Stark and the Hound, crossing the Riverlands, are spotted by a farmer and his young daughter while making their way to the Vale where Arya can be ransomed to her rich aunt, Lysa Arryn. Arya quickly fabricates a story that the Hound and she are father and daughter, who go gain as a knight in the service of House Tully. The farmer believes and allows the pair to stay the night in his home and share a meal. Famished, Arya and the Hound scarf the food down hastily. Arya wakes the following morning to hear the farmer's daughter screaming. Clegane has assaulted the farmer and taken his silver. Confused and horrified, Arya demands to know why Clegane did that. He simply states, a dead man doesn't need his silver, claiming the farmer is weak and he and his daughter will not survive the upcoming winter. On Dragonstone, Stannis Baratheon learns of Joffrey's death and warns Sir Davos that their time to lay claim to the Iron Throne dwindles if no army can be secured to wage war again. Shortly after, when Sir Davos begins his reading lessons with Princess Shireen Baratheon, he realizes a possible ally across the narrow sea. the Iron Bank of Bravos. In the north, a village south of the wall is attacked by raiding wildlings under Tormund and the cannibalistic Thens. While the village is massacred, a lone boy sent by Styr as a messenger to Castle Black to relay an account of the massacre and also warning them more would follow. Going to the wall, at Castle Black, Sam terribly fears for the safety of Gilly and moves her to a vassal town that frequently serves as the Night's Watch brothers in bodily vices. Sam was resolute to keeping Gilly safe from all harm, however, and pledges to visit Gilly as much as possible, instructing the end in which he leaves her that she will not be touched. Having received word of the wildlings' raids down south, the Lord Commander states that they do not have the manpower to afford venturing away from the wall. They are ordered to Ed and Gran return to Castle Black after escaping Crestor's Keep. John feels he told Mance Raider that 1,000 men armed Castle Black, and therefore points out that when Mance reaches Crestor's Keep, Rax and Carl Tanner will not hesitate in revealing the truth. John insists the Night's Watch send a party to Crestor's Keep to kill their traitor brothers before Mance gets to them first. Finally, in Marine, in Slaver's Bay, Daenerys Targaryen marches on the seat of Marine as she begins her siege of the slave city. She is faced with a champion's duel where a riding knight of Marine challenges her to choose a champion that will fight for her. Grey Worm, Jorah, and Barristan all volunteer to stand as their champion. She refuses all three as too valuable to her. Dario Naharis, commander of the Second Sons, then volunteers to be Dany's champion, and she accepts. As Naharis quickly dispatches the Marine champion by killing the champion's horse, Dany begins her siege of the city by speaking of freedom to the gathered slaves, and they catapult to the broken chains of those she has freed across the city walls, demonstrating her previous successes. As the slaves examine the broken chains, the Great Masters look on, perhaps in fear. Yeah, I'll definitely be afraid of her, so yeah. Anyway, let's take a look at some notes surrounding this episode. The title of the episode is a reference to the honorifics Daenerys Targaryen assumes after the sack of Astapor, Breaker of Chains. Jack Lewis returns to play Joffrey Baratheon's corpse as Elias had staged in the Great Sept of Baelor. He filmed the scene before filming for his actual death scene last episode. As Gleeson recounted, he had a wonderful time during the shooting of the scene, despite the fact that it involves his character's parents having sex right next to his dead body, knowing he was being paid just to take a nap during an entire day of filming. While mourning Joffrey in the Great Sept of Baelor, Cersei repeats the words that Tyrion said to her in The Prince of Winterfell. "I will hurt you for this. The day will come when you think you're safe and happy, and your joy will turn to ashes in your mouth, and you will know the debt is paid." This was not actually a threat from Tyrion, but was merely meant to convince Cersei that she had found his whore. In fact, she had not found Shay, and mistakenly thought Ross was his lover. Tywin treats Tommen affectionately, so differently than the scornful manner he has treated Joffrey. Tywin must have realized that Tommen can be a much better king than a psychopathic brother who was no more than a burden on his house. There is no King Orys I in the books. The only character by that name is Orys Baratheon, but he was never a king, nor was he killed by his brother. There was a possibility that he was a local king before the Seven Kingdoms were unified, in spite of the Valyrian-sounding name. Nor does a Targaryen king match the description given for him, enacting well-received reforms but ruling less than a year before his own brother murdered him in his sleep. In the books, Daenerys' army had no siege engines, nor were there enough surrounding timber to construct any. To construct siege engines to take Marine, she had her army disassemble the ships in which she sailed Astapor in, which had been following her army north along the coast. In the TV series, Dario Naharis explicitly remarks in Second Sons that in order to besieging Yunkai have no siege weapons, yet her army has mysteriously acquired multiple catapults since they left Yunkai. It is possible that they were acquired from either the Second Sons or the Yunkish, or constructed from timber acquired on the road. Sam mentioned Molestown back in Season 1, when complained to Jon that some Night's Watch members would sneak off to visit the brothel there. Though Sam doesn't mention it, there's a song about the dangers for a woman at the wall, Brave. Dany Flint was a girl who dressed as a boy to serve the Night's Watch. She was raped and murdered at the Night Fort by unknown people. As a New World crop, potatoes, aka taters, do not exist in Westeros in the books, because Westeros is based on medieval Europe. This marks at least the third time that the TV series had mentioned them in passing. As the Hound previously explained, he is crossing back south from the twins through the riverlands so he can reach the Vale of Arryn and ransom Arya back to her only remaining free and wealthy relative, Grantalice Arryn at the Eyrie. The twins bridge over the Green Fork of the Trident River. The quickest way from the twins to the Bloody Gate, the mountain pass that leads to the Vale, is to travel south along the King's Road located east of the Green Fork. In this episode, Ari asks where they are, and Xander says he thinks they are near the town of Fairmarket, which is located along the Blue Fork of the Trident River. The Blue Fork itself is west of the Green Fork. Ari and the Hound are therefore traveling south, then east, instead of east, then south along the King's Road. The Hound must have chosen to avoid taking the main highway in the region for fear of Lannister patrols. If they were slowly making his way through the backcountry, this is why it took him the second half of Season 3 to travel from the mouth of the Trident to the Twins, but it's taking all of Season 4 to travel back. The Hound steals the farmer's money, although he previously said to Ari and Two Swords that he was not a thief. When discussing with Oberyn his sister Ilya Martell's story had been murdered by Gregor Clegane, Tywin says that soldiers committed atrocities all the time in war without being ordered to do so by their commanders. In the novels, Gregor was tasked with killing Rhaegar's children, but Tywin simply gave him no specific orders about what to do with his wife Ilya. It's unclear whether he non-verbally implied that he wanted her killed. However, in a rare break with usual stoicism, Tywin firmly denies to Tyrion that he ever wanted Gregor to rape Ilya. If Tywin didn't want Ilya killed, he never punished Rhaegar for it, because that would imply that Tywin was somehow at fault for what happened. Whatever the case, Tywin's style in this episode is hypocritical. In Season 1's Baelor, Tyrion complained that the Hill tribesmen he hired to sell swords were fighting each other, and Tywin chastised him that when soldiers act in an undisciplined manner, their commander is always responsible. First, Oberyn's line that some people think the sky is blue because the world is inside the eye of a giant is a reference to a line Robb Stark said exactly 30 episodes ago. In Season 1's Lord Snow, Robb chided his brother Bran to not pay heed to all of Old Nan's nursery stories, as one of them was that the whole world is inside the eye of a blue-eyed giant named Macumber. No mention of this myth has been made in the books. Tywin implies that Oberyn is the one who poisoned Joffrey, in view of his knowledge of poisons, the grudge he bears against the Lannisters, and his conversation with Tyrion on the day he arrived at the capital. This is perhaps a reference to the fan theory in the book. Then in the book, Oberyn, unaware of the Tyrells and Littlefinger's plan, attempted to kill Joffrey by using a scorpion-shaped golden brooch, which could have been a coat of poison he gave Joffrey as a gift. The Tyrells, however, have beaten him to it. The first time that Sam will try nickname the Slayer is mentioned. Sansa leaves King's Landing for the first time since her arrival in Season 1's Lord Snow. Her escape from the city marks the end of her brutal captivity at Joffrey's court, which lasted over 2 years. The first time that the phrase Red Wedding is used on the show is a reference to the massacre at the Twins. Podrick Payne tells Tyrion that a man he didn't know tried to bribe him with a knighthood to testify against Tyrion, and that they saw him by a poison known as the Strangler. This is the first time that the poison used to kill Joffrey is specifically named in the TV series, though Pycelle also later identifies it in Season 4. What isn't clear is who tried to bribe Podrick. The Earl assassins wanted to frame Tyrion to divert suspicion from themselves, as he points out. And only they would know already what kind of poison was used in the assassination. On the other hand, Pycelle might just have already determined what poison was used to kill Joffrey in the past few hours or days, simply off screen, after which she told Cersei he was so convinced that Tyrion did it, she had then had one of her agents try to bribe Podrick. According to the show's linguist David Peterson, the Myronese champion's insults are actually a translation of the French knight's insults from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. When asked about memorable moments from filming in Season 4, Pedro Pascal recounted that during the scene where Tywin interrupts the orgy that Oberyn is having at the brothel, when the actress playing one of the prostitutes, he didn't specify which one, wouldn't put her robe on between takes. This has been brought up by other actresses filming past nude scenes, repeatedly disrobing over and over again for multiple takes during the entirety of filming. And so performing striptease for the filming crew each time can actually be more stressful than just staying naked between takes. What Pascal thought was odd was that this was a long day of filming, and the actress would stay naked even during long breaks, to the point that she later sat around the green room entirely naked, while playing Words with Friends on her iPhone with David Benioff. Wow. Now, there's another note here that they have about the sex scene between Jaime and Cersei grade 7, but I don't think we're going to talk about that because I really don't feel comfortable talking about that scene anymore, so let's just move on, and yeah. So overall, I think this episode is kind of interesting, and again, I like the fact that it moves along some of the plot threads of the season, and Although we don't see some of the other ones, we'll get into that a little bit later, so there you go. So overall, I give Breaker of Chains 3 Iron Thrones out of 5. Well, anyway, tune in tomorrow as we take a look at the next episode, Oathkeeper. So, until then, remember everyone, winter is coming.